Welcome to another edition of SIDEBOOB Cinema, your podcast within a podcast. I'm joined once again by my good friend Jonathan Astro and AJ. How are you guys?
I'm good. AJ.
I'm good.
Yeah, okay.
It's been a rough month, but I'm good.
Oh,
I'm here for it.
Yes, it has. It has been rough for you, but we're here to lift you up.
That's right.
And it doesn't help that people on the internet might be starting to think that we're perverts.
Definitely.
Well, our film today, the film we're covering today is Sliver, of course, 1993, Sharon Stone. Had you guys seen this before?
I have seen it. I've seen it. I did. Dare I say I was there on the ground floor. I saw it as a new release. And illicitly saw it and then revisited it every now and then. But AJ, had you seen this film?
I had not.
Great.
I have seen the UB40 film clip. That's about it.
You've mostly seen the movie then.
Pretty much.
Pretty much the same, isn't it? That's what you thought it was going to be. All right. I'll knock off this synopsis. Here we go. Stay with me. This is not as ridiculous as the Jade one, so it won't be that bad. So, Carly Norris, played by Sharon Stone, is our 35-year-old successful publishing executive. She's just gotten out of a stale 7-year marriage to a very boring man, and she begins her new life as a single woman at a New York high-rise building known as the Sliver Building, or simply 113. Now, what she doesn't know is, but what we do know is that her new apartment used to belong to another hot blonde called Naomi Singer, who fell to her death at the very beginning, so don't forget her. The building has a range of quirky residents. We've got Gus, who's a bookish professor, Vida, who's a bit of a good time girl with an English accent. We have Jack Lansford, played by Tom Berenger, a handsy author, and a young video game developer called Zeke Hawkins, played by William Baldwin. Okay. Gus, the professor, the old professor, seeks out Carly at the market across the road and sells us the intrigue by telling her that she looks a lot like the dead woman, Naomi Singer, from the very beginning of the film. Carly's new life isn't really working out. She spends her nights watching her neighbours party down and frigging herself off in the bathtub. This is where we also find out that someone in the building is spying not just on Carly's onanism, but on everyone all the time. She's also pursued hot and heavy by Jack Lansford, that's Tom Berenger, a guy who seems a little intense, and his behaviour is growing nuttier by the second. Carly throws a housewarming party and shortly after forms a connection with Zeke, who invites her to sweat it up at the gym with him. Smash cut, they're having sex, okay? And like a bunch of sex. So you just picture that. Carly confronts Jack, that's Tom Berenger, saying that Vida, the good time girl with the London accent, told her that he was having an affair with the dead tenant Naomi Singer. I just confused myself then. So yeah, Carly confronts Jack and says, Vida told me that you were having an affair with Naomi Singer. Jack seems to have beef with Zeke, the young video game developer, who we now discover is indeed the building's owner and resident Peeping Tom. He is in charge of the surveillance operation that is going on there. Now, Vida is attacked and killed in a stairwell, and Carly happens upon the scene moments after, finding Jack crouching over the body and, to be honest with you, saying mad shit if you turn up the room. Did you catch that?
I did.
Saying mad shit. And you're like, what are you saying? Okay. So Jack is interrogated by the cops and they discover that Jack knew Vida and was probably having an affair with him. Zeke reveals his peeping Tomery to Carly and she's appalled and then not, as she's wrapped up in the lives and loves of the building's inhabitants. Zeke also reveals that he tapes everything, especially the hot sex that he had with Carly, which they watch together and sort of, almost have new sex while they're watching the old sex. So Jack makes his move and attacks Carly in her apartment, forcing her by gunpoint to lure Zeke over. Carly, Jack, and Zeke have a bit of a wrestle, and Jack is killed. Shot, that is. Shortly after, now that Jack is dead, Carly recognizes that her relationship with Zeke is not very healthy. Right about the moment she finds the tapes of all the other women he's boned in the building. Vida, Naomi, and Carly herself. The video also gives us confirmation that Jack was indeed Naomi's killer, and we can interpolate that likely Vida's in the stairwell. At the end, she shoots up Zeke's monitors and tells Zeke to get a life. That's the end of that.
That's literally how it ends. Get a life, credits roll.
I remember that final line being quite famous.
Yeah.
Like that was quite like a famous, because you think of those sort of punch endings, like there will be blood, I'm finished, or eyes wide shut, there's one thing we need to do, what's that? Fuck, like you think of these punchy, like 1-2 ends, and this is a famous
it punchy
one.
enough though?
Well, no, it's not, but that's why this one's famous. Like because There Will Be Blood is like a masterpiece sort of ending, and Eyes Wide Shut is I think those two are premier examples. Whereas this one it desperately wants to be that, but it's a little out of step with everything we've seen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's maybe too flip.
Yep.
Yeah,
for sure. Did Frank like it?
Yeah, bonus central.
Yep. Yep.
Well, this is Frank Fest, as I have dubbed it. So I'm always thinking of him, AJ's partner. So, wait, did you watch this with Inga or?
I did. Yep.
Oh, what did she think of this movie? Come on.
She liked it, but she was like, "Oh my god, there's so many creepers in this movie."
Okay,
it's true.
Everyone's a creeper. The thing that struck me this viewing, because I saw it many years ago when I was much younger. So I probably didn't pick up on a lot of the subtleties in the film, but there are just really strange interactions between a lot of the characters, like especially early on, like the guys are so aggressive off the bat in a really weird way, and then Sharon Stone's character Carly, it's almost like she's hearing them say something else, like. Her reaction is not what you'd think it would be. Like, for instance, her boss takes her out for a lunch, and she's anticipating a raise, but I don't think she gets it. And her boss is trying to set her up with this other writer, the Tom Berenger character, and Tom Berenger, he's just the character Jack is just so aggressive, like telling her, "Oh, have you read my book?" And when she says no, he's like, "You have to read it. You will read it." It's just. He's really aggressive. A couple of scenes after, like Carly's running through Central Park, and then he just like out of nowhere in a hooded sweatshirt just jumps out and kind of grabs her like really aggressively, like supposed to be a joke, but really fucking aggressively. And any woman on the planet would have taken that like much more seriously and gone, "Get the fuck away from me!" Like,
no, it's just a nice little pickup. I mean, he's just keeping it real. He's saying, "I want you. I'm going to reach out and grab you," like the song says.
Even though I can't get it up.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Well, isn't that the whole thing?
That is actually must be his driving sort of wound,
Which is a bit weak.
Well, yeah.
Are you killing people for that?
I don't know. Well, we can get into the ending.
Okay, sorry.
Because no, because he doesn't seem to know throughout the whole movie that he's the killer.
Him and me both.
Yes. Tom Berenger didn't know, clearly. So he's acting it like one way, and then when you put it all together at the end, you're like, wait a minute. Like, fuck, did he know he was the killer?
We'll get to that ending soon, I'm sure, but the apartment building also is interesting because are there really that many kinky people in an apartment? Like all the
Well, who are
all
the
the
kinks?
footage is like everyone's doing something outrageous. Like people are ballroom dancing in their house. Like there's domestic abuse going on. There's like pedophilia. There's people confessing cancer. There's drugs. And you know, obviously there's lots of fucking and
Yes, showering,
constant showering. You know, I just, you know, I can't believe, like, I want to know where this apartment is.
Well, it's like Rear Window. When you in Rear Window, you get these vignettes of the neighbours, and you know, it ends up being this sort of snapshot into life. And I guess you have to take it as being representative of a larger population, because when you sort of pick everyone out there and it ends up looking, it's a human buffet. It's sort of, yeah, it is too much. There's not enough like really fucking boring people there. You know?
Of people just watching TV.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Like people, there's a lot, like most people, especially now, everyone just be on their fucking computer or their laptop or their iPad just doing nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like literally doing nothing.
So many people working out in their apartment too, you know.
Yes.
Look, that gym scene was weird. What the fuck?
So the scene AJ's talking about is where Zeke sort of tricks Carly into going to the gym. He's like, come to the gym. She's like, oh, there's mirrors there. And he's like, no, there's no mirrors there. And they roll up and the place is full of mirrors. So he's lied to her. And then he's working out his buns. And then he gives her buns a working over. So what did you what about that scene didn't ring true to you, Adrian?
Like, it was just weird. Was it needed?
Well, I don't know. It's all pretty arbitrary, isn't it? Like at the end of the day, this sort of content is indefensible, and that's why we don't have it now, I guess, is because it's sort of it's so easy to dismiss. I mean, on many grounds, you know.
I think that's what makes this film fun in a way. Like, you know, I mentioned the weird interactions and the aggressiveness, but it's sort of made it interesting, you know. And the same with that scene. I mean, that scene's, you know, that scene is what it is, and you get to see a bit more flesh from the two leads there. But
mainly Zeke. So
yeah, true. A little something for the ladies there.
Which is nice.
But the other weird thing is, like, he just kind of meets her. He's met her, bumped into her in the lobby and stuff.
But in the elevator, he's saying, "Can I come up and help you?" Like,
yep.
And then he's like at the party, he's given her the wine, and then
will you work out with me?
Yeah, work out with me, and then after that, it's Fucktown, baby.
Yep. Yeah.
So population them.
Yeah. It's a fuck house.
It's a fuck, yeah. In the words of Jade, it's a fuck house. Yes. Well, this type of film, as we've said before, is a total relic of the past. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just is. It's beyond the pale on so many levels. I don't know how you would explain this to, you know, someone just coming into adulthood now. Like, I don't know how, like, they'd say, what is this? Yeah. And you'd say, well, back then we just like to go and watch sort of, you know, like fairly affluent people, like in high rises and offices, sort of feel each other up, like, you know, and get in sort of sexy situations and to world music. Yeah. And they'd go, okay. And they go, and then I'd go, look, I know that sounds strange, but y'all like the Infinity Gauntlet and fucking Spider-Man and shit. So shut up. You know what I mean? Like, at least this is not that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but this is, would you agree that this is the most 90s as fuck movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What felt 90s to you?
Definitely the inclusion of Enigma, the band / producer, definitely signals the 90s for me. But then just the movie as a whole, like you were saying, like, it's just, yeah, affluent people kind of hanging out, not really doing much in situations together, you know.
Just in outrageous jobs as well. Like, I'm an author, a publisher, like fucking hell.
A video game
game developer. This is
was he even that though? Or was that a ruse? Like he just sits at home and watching
Jacks off.
I don't know. All that stuff was a bit embarrassing because of the technology. All of this stuff would have been so cutting edge. Like everything, Enigma was cutting edge. That video games were cutting edge. Like, his video setup, but video games in general. Japan was still very prevalent. After the bubble era in the 80s, it was on people's mind. Japan was very scary to America because Japan was so still is one of the leading economies in the world. But back then, it was fucking huge.
Yeah,
it's only just coming down off that mountain. So there's a lot of. It's so funny, like. You can always tell a film when they mention Japan, like the era, like it's sort of not spoken about in movies anymore. But like he's like, I had the video setup made in Osaka, and the professor talks about going to Osaka, and do you know what I mean? Like it's interesting like that.
Yeah. So his whole tech setup with the screens, like fucking big TV screens, and
the professor must have helped him.
Maybe, yeah. #complicit.
Moving on.
But yeah, and it said it cost him $6 million to make, which...
That's why he screams when she shoots it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It sounds exorbitant even for that time. I guess maybe the wiring all through the building would have been a fucking huge job, I guess.
Yes.
So that's where the cost would come in, I guess. But also, it's always interesting seeing these movies like... Back then, you probably wouldn't question the technology, but the way he zooms in and stuff into, is very like non-realistic.
Well, I remember thinking at the time, because I was there for it, that this was that it was magic. Like you were just like, oh my god, could computers ever really do that?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like
a few movies I think we've reviewed for this podcast have done this, where Zeke's able to just like start typing. Like she's at work and he's at home, and he just starts typing on his computer, and the message comes up in her Word document. In Word.
That rose was terrible.
Clip art.
Yeah, and draws a rose somehow. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Look, it was.
She's
very
35.
early.
She should know better.
Yes. No, it was made by people who didn't know anything about computers and didn't care to know. Okay.
The average person knew less about computers back then, so maybe they just took it for granted. I guess that's possible. That you could.
Well, it is, but the thing is, Zeke would, because obviously it's possible, but you would need to be Kevin Mitnick, like that world-renowned hacker from the 80s, like a guy who just like. But Zeke's not a hacker necessarily.
No.
He's not set up as a hacker. He's spending, as you say, a lot of his time, watching people shower.
Yeah.
Like he's not doing, I didn't see him code or anything. In fact, there's one really confusing line. Oh, there's a lot, but there's one where Sharon Stone's character, he brings her over to his apartment, his batch pad, and then it just cuts from like the decorations on the wall. He's got a poster for that video game Civilization and some manga and stuff. And then he goes, do you like it or something? She says, I love it. I play it all the time.
Yeah.
No, they're talking about the music.
Really?
They're talking about the music. Yeah, Enigma's playing, and they're talking about Enigma.
I've watched it twice this week. Why did it confuse me? I thought they were talking about his video game or something.
Well, actually, first time I saw it, that's what I thought. And then when I had it playing while I was like, writing notes and doing stuff, then I took it as, they're talking about the music.
Fuck, again, this diegetic sound. He plays a couple of tracks of the soundtrack. I think he plays O Carolina. And UB40. I think he plays that more than once. He's got the soundtrack of the movie.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like Spaceballs, the movie. Like he's got it. Like unbelievable. And he's playing it and he's like, what do you think of the soundtrack? What's his Sliver? Cully's son. Stupid. If you enjoy what we do here on the New Flesh podcast, there are a number of ways you can contribute to the success of the show. Consider supporting us financially by becoming a Patreon member and donating monthly or yearly. Alternatively, you can donate money through the Buy Me a Coffee platform. If you're strapped for cash at the moment, there are other ways to support The New Flesh. You can give us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. These really do help others find our show and help spread the word. Or you can just simply tell your friends about us. Back to the show.
Let's talk about the sexy underwear.
Oh.
Okay, so this is the underwear that Zeke buys for Carly.
Yep.
Okay.
After
you go first.
So they've literally just met. He's gone to the house party. They've nailed.
Definitely.
It's like the next day, and he sends her sexy underwear.
Yeah. What's
and Venga picked up on this one. She's like,
"Oh,
how does he know her size?"
Yeah.
And I just went, well, he probably went to the shop and went, put his hands up and went, oh yeah, they're about that big. Then,
to the store attendant, or
yeah. Like, what size, sir? Oh, about 2 handfuls.
He grabbed her chest.
No, but AJ,
okay.
let's just say that a guy gets past the first few hurdles and he's not, you don't think he's a creep.
Okay.
But then he buys you. It's the timing's appropriate, but he's somehow magically got the sizing 100% correct. Is that a red flag?
Well, guys don't usually pay that much attention, right?
Definitely not.
Yeah. So it kind of is.
Okay. Because you'd be like, wow, this guy's like, he's done a lot of leg work.
Yeah.
You know what he's probably done? He's probably zoomed in with his special surveillance camera to the bra that's lying somewhere in her apartment and looked at the tag and went, oh, yep, that's right. You know what?
Well, he's got keys to her place, so he'd just probably roll up.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, okay. So that's what happened.
I put this scene on Insta. I think people like it. The scene on in the restaurant when Zeke asks to see the bra and panties. And then he says, there's so many great lines in it. So
what about the panties?
He goes, she goes, what about the panties? And then she goes, panties? Like high pitch. Panties? Which is great. And one of my favorite lines, he goes, yes, the panties. I want to see the panties. And then she says, forget it. Like she says, like a mobster. She says, forget it. She goes, forget it.
What the hell?
I love this scene. I love everything about it. It's sort of like a really perverted version of the When Harry Met Sally scene.
Yes, yeah.
And they've got these two uptight people watching, and the waiters
everyone's watching.
Everyone's watching. We're watching them watching. Which is
so
great.
they're not very subtle.
No.
But he's not trying to be, I guess.
No. So anyway, romantic. Probably what I was thinking.
Yeah. So to prove that she's really wearing the panties, she has to take them off.
Yes.
Give them to him.
It's great. It's hot. It's good.
Yeah, it is
and sexy.
That is hot.
And it's the sort of thing that totally etched in my brain. Like these sorts of games, And,
I'm going to do that next time I'm having dinner out with Venga sometime.
I thought you were going to say with me.
Take my pants off. Take my panties off.
You bunch them up and just put them on my plate. And go, what do you think of that? And I go,
big boy.
Forget it.
Smell it. So yeah, look, we stay macro for a second. There's a lot going on here. I've thought about why you perhaps couldn't make this now, because it seems so out of place. I mean, anything does. You put anything in a time capsule and 20, 30 years later, it seems strange. So, but it's just, particularly stark because having lived through it, you're like, oh, wow, this seems so normal at the time, and now it's so exotic and weird. But I think the things that get in the way of making this kind of movie now are like, I think the scourges are, number one, this obsession with lived experience. So this talk of lived experience, and this obsession with consultants and it's sensitivity readers and, stay in your lane mentality means that Joe Esterhaus could never write a story like this, because they'd say, you're not a woman, you don't get to write about women. Do you know what I mean? And which is a shame. I find it a very anti-human attitude, because I love it when women write about men. And I love it. Well, I've talked about this before. I love Johnny in Dirty Dancing. That's written by Eleanor Bergstein.
Like that's, a woman writing a man, and, one of the greatest cinema men of all time. And here we have, a man, writing a woman. And so in the modern day, very small-minded people have decided that, you must stay in your lane, therefore we don't get these sorts of things. So it's a very anti-human attitude. But I think secondarily, it's the moral pivot that we've got now. So cinema itself, but all art itself now has been totally taken over by a very puritanical sect of people. And sex, weirdly, can only be seen, if it's seen at all, as a very positive experience, regardless of how weird it is. Our animal instincts are not to be explored. Now, Isabelle Huppert, French, and I think the only people who can save us from this madness are the French, by the way. So Isabelle Huppert worked with Paul Verhoeven, director of Basic Instinct, on another one of his films. And she said of working with Verhoeven, since that sort of pertains in a roundabout way to what we're talking about here, she says, and this is recently, movies are not meant to be moral, she declares. Art is not the place for moralizing. Otherwise, we would have no painting, no books, no nothing. It's where we explore all the thoughts and acts we could never confess to in normal life. So there you have it right there, folks. That is a true artist. She's been in such incredible movies like The Piano Teacher and whatnot.
Ooh,
really,
The Piano Teacher.
We're going to do. Let's do it. Eh?
We should
do that film.
that one.
Yeah, we're totally going to do that film. Okay, so we'll do The Piano Teacher because part of I think our mission should be to explore the reasons why this turn has happened, and she has articulated something so clearly there that I think is in complete opposition with the grandstanding that goes. Compare what she said to the grandstanding that went on at the Oscars in 2020. In fact, every speech there, from what I gathered, was the complete opposite of that. The view of people in Hollywood right now is movies, not only movies should be moral, they need to be the right morals. In other words, the morals that I choose, and that aligns with one. We've got to make sure everyone's learning and that we're teaching all the time. So, this film's come from a very different tradition, and in a weird way, Isabelle Huppert is I think we need to somehow get this back, this adventurous spirit of going, because what Joe Eszterhas is doing, I mean, you could say it's sleazy or whatever, but at the same time he is attempting to explore darkness, the darkness within us, in about voyeurism and sex and power and control and all these things, and and desire and horniness and murder and subjugation, all this weird stuff. And I just feel like, it's such a shame that, and who gets it? Enigma get it. They get it because they signed up to put their music to it, and I think it's a good match. And what do you guys think?
I agree. For sure.
I knew you did agree.
You know what I love in this movie? The word putz.
Twice.
You don't hear the word
She's
putz.
Terrible.
Colleen Camp. JJ, what do you think, Colleen Camp? Are you good?
You've been fucking your brains out, haven't you? Like, her voice was so weird. Like like it was bizarre.
She was obsessed with guys like having hard dicks as well. Like,
yeah,
all the dudes she dated couldn't get hard enough lead pencils.
That's right. Yeah. Why was it so much dirtier saying no lead in your pencil? That's way worse than saying he couldn't get it up. It's so much more creatively offensive,
yeah.
Like, and she even got the worst line in one. I can't believe no one changed this. She says, Sharon Stone says, Carly says to her, like, you've been spending too much time with your vibrator. I certainly have. I'm getting a plastic yeast infection.
I love that. I loved it both times.
Fucking hell. So she was
just a caricature.
She's in a different movie.
Yeah.
My favorite quote from hers is this: "Isn't Pearl Jam some Oriental sex thing? Yummy."
Yeah.
She was just loving it.
We've talked about this before. Let's bring back the word Oriental.
Yeah.
And let's say it like that.
Yeah. No, you know why I say
Oriental.
it like that? My mum says it like that.
That's great. That is, don't change a thing. That's great. Oriental. Like it's perfect. It's perfect. So good. Oriental isn't Pearl Jam a weird Oriental sex thing?
But then she says yummy.
Yeah.
Yummy. Like it's offensive to everyone. You know?
Well,
So
we've mentioned Enigma a bunch of times now, so maybe we should talk about them.
All right, get into it.
So the soundtrack does feature some music by a 90s... they don't call themselves a band. Well, it's actually one guy.
An experience.
No, it's called a project now.
A project.
So Enigma is a new age world beat project, and it was founded in 1990 by Romanian-German musician and producer Michael Cretu. And according to Cretu, the inspiration for the project came from his desire to make a kind of music that did not obey the old rules and habits and presented a new form of artistic expression with mystic and experimental components. So the first Enigma studio album, which was MCMXC AD, which is 1990, for those of you who are not too quick on their Roman numerals. And the album remains Enigma's biggest, helped by the international hit single Sadness Part 1, which sold 12 million units alone.
Jesus Christ, this song was everywhere.
Yes. Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yep.
Maya, like radio.
Yeah.
Someone's
All
house.
the commercials. Places, yeah.
Spoofs fucking everywhere.
And he's done 8 albums. Last one was released in 2016. He was fucking huge. Sold over 8.5 million albums just for the debut album, I think. Estimated 70 million worldwide with over 100 gold and platinum certifications, Grammy Awards, blah, blah, blah. I mentioned the term project. So Enigma sort of popularized this idea of not referring to a band, but calling it a project.
But still getting a lot of money.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, call it what you like. I think it's called a project. Okay. I don't believe we need to be a band. But anyway, here's my gold record and look at my giant mansion that I bought with money.
Yeah, it's still doing everything that a band or artist ever did, but just calling it a project.
Wait a minute. Isn't this like this? I'll see if I can get this right. Isn't this like when you say you're a straight chick and you say, I'm queer?
Yeah.
And here's my boyfriend.
Yeah. Here's my husband and 3 kids.
Here's my husband and kid. Anyway, I'm so queer right now.
So let's just talk about their style for a second here. So their first album, the 1990 album, it combines Gregorian chants and religious overtones with atmospheric synths, a hypnotic aesthetic, and a dance-like beat, along with elements of pop and ambience, and all accompanied by French-like whispers. I think it's lost a bit of its shine over the years, but it's still quite hooky and it still gets stuck in your head. It's a strange melting pot of like electronic beats with breaks of sampled indigenous singing or religious chanting. So they do this thing where, it's got a really 90s sort of beat loop and it'll have these synth pads and it's really ambient, and they'll have these breaks that use a lot of sampled indigenous music. And Enigma's actually been sued several times for unauthorized use of samples from indigenous musicians, famously by an indigenous Taiwanese couple who featured on their hit Return to Innocence, which is one of their biggest and most well-known songs. So they've in their first album, actually, they were accused of putting satanic content into the first album. And this is a really 90s thing. I think we've talked about this before, where it seems like everyone was obsessed with Satanism in the 90s and that music was satanic, Many of the accusations were concerned with the Gregorian chants being satanic. And this resulted in many Catholic-backed radio stations in Europe banning Sadness Part 1 from being played. The record company issued a press release denying the claims that they had anything to do with satanic materials, and Enigma stated that he didn't mean for there to be any implications of Satanism within the album. So some more projects that drew comparisons with Enigma are the French act Deep Forest. I don't know if you remember Deep Forest.
I had them on CD single.
No, you didn't.
Did you? CD single?
I did. CD single.
My sister had this on cassette and we smashed it. We smashed the fuck out of this cassette. We listened to it all the time. Yeah.
There you go.
It's a hit.
I know exactly what song you're talking about.
And there's also a Canadian duo, Delirium, was quite similar to these guys. People who talk about cultural appropriation, they hold these up as big examples of cultural appropriation, especially in music, like of taking sampling indigenous stuff and putting it into tracks and
sharing it with the world, the entire world. What fucking assholes!
Well,
what
Deep Forest, I think they actually went into the Amazon and recorded a bunch of singers and stuff from different tribes and sampled those and turned them into big hits.
But what kind of a hateful son of a bitch would you have to be to not see that track brought us all so much joy?
True. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like Peter Singer, the philosopher, would look at this and say, well, we need to weigh up, the amount of people that were hurt and the amount of people that were, that weren't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's ridiculous to me. But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the case of the Taiwanese couple, like Enigma wasn't the first to take this music. So the story goes that they performed at there was some cultural exchange that happened in the US, and they performed and they were recorded and featured like on a CD that went to the Library of Congress or something, and they were quite excited about that. And then from that, somehow it ended up being used in one of the Olympic Games promos.
Oh, wow.
It's probably not Atlanta, but probably before the Atlanta Games. What was that?
96.
96, yeah. So it would have been before whatever came before that one. And it was used in a bunch of ads as well. And so I think Enigma, the story goes that he was unaware that it wasn't in the public domain because all these other people were using it. So it ended up settling out of court, and these Taiwanese people got a bunch of cash, no doubt, and royalties from the music. And, so I guess it all works out in the end. But, in relation to Deep Forest, some of these isolated tribes, what are they going to do with money? And I don't know the story. Maybe Deep Forest gave them something to contribute to their situation, or
You sounded like the salesman to the tribe.
Yeah.
He brought them 9 cartons of multi-pack Cokes, and you're like, I bought you these Cokes. I could bring you money, but what would you do with money? You wouldn't know what to do. Where's the Coke? I think of the sugar buzz you'll get.
And cartons of Marlboro.
Dreadful. Yes, dreadful.
What's more appropriate would probably be livestock, like goats or something.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So
I can see you've studied these tribes carefully.
Anyway, I think I agree with you. People are too quick to jump on this cultural appropriation thing and see it as such a sinister thing. Enigma, they sample stuff. They don't know if it's going to be a hit. No one knows if it's going to be a hit. If anything's going to be successful, no one knows. We just throw this shit out there and hopefully some of it sticks. So they're not just doing it trying to, if they wanted to make a lot of money, there'd be probably easier ways to do it than fucking being a musician. You know what I mean? If that's what they're all about. So they were obviously really inspired by some of this music and were really inspired to use it and bring it to the world. So, I think what's wrong with that? And like you say, it's given people a lot of joy over the years. So Enigma's been used in this film a lot, and because it has that kind of spiritual new age sounding. Do you call it sexy? I guess
it is sexy.
Then it is sexy.
It is sexy because it's sort of sandalwood sexy. Like you're doing weird sex positions.
Yeah.
Like Sting and his wife.
Yeah.
And there's incense and you're exploring each other. It's like weird tantric, baby. And it's like weird Euro broken English, like, God, don't be sad.
Yes, yeah.
Life is crazy. Life is mad. Don't be afraid. God, don't be sad.
And then you can hear him taking a drag while he's singing it.
That's the sound of my childhood in a way. Like,
oh, totally.
Yeah.
you know,
It
that
is.
Yeah, like that, you know, synth pads and world music beats and sampled indigenous stuff. Yeah. And then the hot chick or the, you know, Euro guy just talking, whispering over the top.
Saying shit they don't understand. Life is crazy. Life is mad.
The soundtrack also features an original score by one of my favorite film composers, and that's Howard Shore. Most people would know Howard Shore from his more recent stuff being, you know, The Lord of the Rings and other such nonsense, but he's made, you know, he's written some really fantastic and really original sounding film scores. His early stuff is really good. His soundtrack for Crash, Videodrome, if you've ever seen The Cell with
J-Lo.
Yeah, J-Lo, that is fucking amazing. He did The Fly. What else has Howard Shore done? He's done all the Cronenberg films pretty much.
Yeah.
So Naked Lunch.
He's serious. He's a serious artist.
He is, yeah. And I really enjoy his score in this. It's I just think it's really, really appropriate, you know, like nothing sticks out as being over the top or
No.
You know, so it's just, and I think his score is kind of sexy too, because his orchestral music sort of underscores a lot of the sex scenes as well. So
they do a bit of blending here and there.
Yeah,
well.
I like it.
Can we just pivot a second before we move off the music? AJ, what the fuck is UB40 even?
What? I was so confused as to why they were even on there.
Again, this song was everywhere.
It was.
So, like, this movie isn't Four Weddings and Funeral.
No.
So, why do we have this song in the movie? Did anyone read the script or? You know? I mean, talk about cultural appropriation. These guys are doing Jamaican accents.
Yeah.
Like, that's like these two guys on TikTok now, the Island Boy guys.
Oh, yeah.
Island Boy. You know? For goodness sakes.
Yeah.
So this is OG, like, cultural appropriation. Like, think about this. So imagine that. The guy just comes into the studio. How you doing? Yeah, good to see you. Anyway, roll it. And then he goes, and you go, what the fuck is this? We talked about not doing this, didn't we? And we've also got Shaggy.
Yeah.
Oh, Carolina.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I hate Shaggy.
How dare you?
That's what it is. Oh, and Massive Attack is also on here as well. So that's, if you're cool, you liked Massive Attack in the 90s.
That's right. Yeah.
You're emo.
Yeah. All the cool people like Massive Attack.
Yeah.
Like Shazza was at some stages in the movie. She was a bit emo, a bit goth with her choker on.
Yeah, that seems like a 90s thing too, doesn't it? That choker jewelry.
Dark lipstick.
Yeah.
She's so hot.
I'm in love with her. I love Sharon Stone so much. I just think she's magnificent. Like she just and think about this. She had the entire world by the balls.
Yeah.
Like the entire world. You know what I mean? I know there was some stuff about her getting paid early on, but you know, still she managed, I'm sure she managed to make it back eventually, but she's just like so sexy and a real woman too. It's a woman. It's not a girl, it's a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
she's hot.
Like just and so comfortable with herself as well, and so free and you know, look at all the clutching of pearls that goes on now about, oh, I can't believe I played Black Widow and my titties were popping out of that shirt. Oh God, it's so offensive. Sharon Stone would be like, who cares? Look, we're talking about. I showed my bush straight up.
Yeah.
Well, Billy Baldwin was supposed to show the dong, and I think they filmed it, and then he said no.
And he showed his ass.
I don't know. I think he's a total punk bitch.
Okay. Well, that is a good. I've got a new segment that I'd like to debut. So it's for AJ. Okay.
Oh.
So this is called Keeper or Creeper.
Oh, yeah. So I actually wrote down about this.
Great.
Like Billy, I decided is ugly hot.
Ooh, ugly hot.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't do it for me. I'm
Okay.
much more of an Alec girl,
But he's
but
youthful.
old Alec.
Youthful though. Successful game developer.
Yeah.
He's works out. He's self-employed.
No,
owns real
creeper.
estate.
He's a creeper.
Okay, so he's creeper.
Because like the mad shit he's spruiking is insane.
Okay. All right, I get it. Okay, he's a creeper.
Yeah.
So Jack Lansford, played by Tom Berenger, successful author. He owns a ranch in Montana. Likes to dress casually, sort of like a mugger.
Yeah.
Sweatpants and a beanie, and he'd just jump out and say hi. He's assertive, maybe a little manic. Keeper or creeper?
Nah, creeper.
Okay.
All Pike was right at the start. He was really aggressive all the way through. And like saying mad shit like maybe you two share the same spermicide.
Oh, shit, I forgot
That's
about that.
a little bit offensive.
That line.
That was later in the movie.
If you said that now, that I think you would be like, you'd just be erased from the world.
Do people still use spermicide?
Do you want me to talk about in detail about my wife and I, how we make love together and what kind of spermicide we use? Mind you, I did make a joke the other day to Katie. I said to her, oh yeah, something about, take your diaphragm out. And she said, diaphragm? And I went, what's wrong with that? And she said, them shits ain't been used in like 30 years.
Yeah.
And I went, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I think those two go hand in hand.
Yeah. So what a fucking operation
I know.
it used to be.
Yeah.
Get out your spermicide jelly, sexy, and jam a giant bit of rubber all the way up your cooch. And we'll see what happens because it's not 100%, to be frank with you. Still have a baby. So, all right. So miscasting of William Baldwin, we all agree. Okay. Same with Jade. Both had the same sort of
true.
miscasting there.
But you said he's ugly hot though.
Yeah, like I get it if some people find him hot. Like I can see it, but I don't like the sunken in eyes.
Right.
Okay.
Like he's just not my flavour.
What about his rig?
Meh. He's all right.
Okay.
I'd much rather Alec now.
Right now. Fresh off a murder charge.
Yeah.
Fresh
right now.
off murder charge. He's
only
moments away of assaulting paparazzi while he's drunk, and I can't wait for it.
You can be one of those birds that gets obsessed with a life inmate, and you can marry him.
Look, I have said this before. I was going to be a pen pal to jailbirds.
Great.
And I used to tell my mum that all the time, and she used to get really upset with me. I also used to say that I was going to try it for Big Brother and get my tits out. Two things
Great.
my mum has never recovered
I don't
from.
know what she'd be more appalled at.
Both.
Because, they are both damnable things.
And my brother said, as long as you get a P.O. box, it'll all be fine.
Oh, yeah. That's good, though. That's helpful
Good advice. That is good advice, yeah.
But I was like, some people are in jail for not doing anything.
Yeah, but some people are also in there for doing a lot.
It's true. It's true.
So you got to pick your mark. You're like, did this guy really do it? I mean, they all say they didn't do it, but
that's true.
Did this guy really not do it, or did he really, vivisect that person?
I'm not going to write to Ted Bundy. Okay,
no, he's dead. AJ,
he's dead. I know that.
The legit killers, they're the hottest ones, though.
Like Richard Ramirez.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, he was disgusting.
So gross.
He was not good. Not good at all.
Well, let's talk about the ending. Can I talk about the ending?
You can, yeah, for sure.
All right. So This film had a major battle with the MPAA, which originally gave the film was going to give it an R rating, and they were working pretty hard to try and get it an NC-17 rating because apparently,
what the fuck did those guys do today? Shush, for fuck's sake, they'd just be asleep in the chair, going, "Oh, yes, that the Rock movie was good. What's next?" And they go, Ant-Man and versus fucking Iron Man, and then they go, "Oh yes, more shots of I don't know, like the Infinity Gauntlet, like big and powerful." And then they go, "Wait, is that our purview or not really?" I just thought I'd weigh in on that. Yeah. Anyway,
so they were the producers were working really hard to get that NC-17 rating. Apparently, it's box office suicide if you're R-rated. I don't know why.
Used to be, yeah, because you couldn't take because kids weren't allowed at all. Whereas if it was R-rated, a guardian could bring the kid in.
Yeah, right. So they made extensive reshoots before the release, and some of the reshoots actually ended up changing the killer's identity.
Oh.
So they shot a final scene with a helicopter that involved flying over a volcano.
To reference that original line, he says
he wants to fly into a volcano. Yeah.
Oh.
And the helicopter actually crashed, and somehow everyone survived, which is good news. And the footage was lost during the flight. So they actually reshot all of that. And let me explain what that scene's all about first. So in the film's original ending, Zeke instead of Jack turns out to be the killer. And he and Carly fly over a Hawaiian volcano when Zeke suddenly confesses his crimes. Then he fears the aircraft towards the volcano. Also, Carly basically says something that to the effect that she's okay with that. And so when it went to test screenings, the preview audiences hated the idea of Carly turning immoral so much in that helicopter scene that they decided to flip the killer altogether and turn it into the Berenger character. So you get a sense that Tom Berenger doesn't know that he's the killer throughout the whole thing. And it's true because he wasn't the killer.
Mm. Well, Fatal Attraction has had a similar trajectory. So like they had an ending where, I think she kills herself or something. And it was a downer and a bummer, and then they changed it to she gets killed by Michael Douglas or whatever, but him and his wife sort of triumphant, and it made a lot of bank. And this was the same deal. So they changed the ending, and it went made for 40 million, made 116, and then went on to do this was a mega smash. This was huge. This was big. So
but what do we think of an ending where the killer gets the girl?
Well, Basic Instinct.
She was kind of into it though for a bit.
She was into the peeping and the TVs,
and she really liked him. So if she didn't see the movies, I could definitely see her just going, "Yeah, sweet." If she didn't see him fucking everyone.
Well, I think it's about just choosing. Like, I think Basic Instinct was magical the way it was very delicate. There's a couple of factors. I think Michael Douglas is a perfect match for Sharon Stone in terms of their, I don't know, their gravitas and their clout. So they really do have an excellent chemistry. They're playing this cat and mouse with each other. Whereas in this movie, Billy Baldwin, it's hard to buy this ending because just like in Jade, the casting, it's miscast. So there is no cat and mouse game. She sort of really overshadows this guy. So we're not invested in him. But also you need to choose if you're going to do an sort of an ironic ending or an up ending or a down ending, or whatever, you need to choose your audience because, the ending, that helicopter ending is a lot like the ending of Crash, which you mentioned earlier. So you mentioned Howard Shore's work on Crash. Crash has got this awesome scene where they, the husband and wife speed up on a freeway and launch and get into a car crash, and like they, he says, "Oh, we're still here" or whatever, and it's okay, baby, next time or something, and the camera like pulls back, and it's like this beautiful, sexy dystopia. That was a very small movie and very niche, and Whereas, to do that in this was a big fat movie, like, $40 million is a lot to spend on a movie. And I did that kind of ending just wouldn't have worked here, but it's a great ending. I think if you cast it properly, someone better, like someone stronger to go, and their cat and mouse game was a little bit more believable. Then at the end, I think that it should have been Tom Berenger, but it should have been Zeke's obsession and where they found out. So then what you've got is that you've solved the problem of the killer, but what you're left with is the awkward thing of you and I are both involved in this sort of voyeuristic thing. Oh, and we just like Batman in the Dark Knight, we solved the big problem using overstepping justice, because we discovered, you know what I mean? Like, rather than solve the pedophilia case in the movie, they should have solved the fucking murder.
Yeah.
And still been addicted to the sexy stuff. And then, or even if he was the killer, I love the volcano ending, but they should have had her put her hand on the joystick and go down into it. And then you'd go, oh shit, so I don't know, like it's a very delicate thing. And I think that that Joe House, you can tell although he did work very hard, like got a lot of rewriting and a lot of different stuff to try and get it to work. And it really is alchemical at some point. You know what I mean? Like, Basic Instinct is fucking magical, like the way it comes together. And he's had several other chances to do it in Jade and Sliver, but just a few. What's great is that you can see just a few creative decisions just changes the whole deal.
Yeah. What do you think of their chemistry, Billy and Sharon?
Meh.
You don't think they have chemistry?
Well, when they were fucking on the big column, that was pretty hot.
Yeah,
big column.
Like when he's taking it from behind.
Yes.
The rape fantasy.
Yeah, that was hot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, I asked this because, according to the director, Philip Noyce, Sharon Stone and William Baldwin hated each other and demanded that their scenes be filmed separately whenever possible.
Well, that's pretty standard stuff. Philip Noyce, Australia's own. Philip Noyce.
Yeah.
Director of Rabbit Proof Fence and Sliver.
And what didn't he do? Didn't he do Castaway or?
I did Clear and Present Danger. He did The Bone Collector, and he might have done Dead Calm. Maybe.
No, Dead Calm is the one I'm thinking.
Dead Calm.
Yeah.
I like that movie.
So he's proper. He did Salt with Angelina Jolie, I think, as well. So he makes me really proud in many ways, because he's a real journeyman director, someone who can direct in a lot of different genres, and here he is. Just I think it's beautifully directed. I really do. Like, apart from that, it's miscast, and he doesn't have always 100% control over that. I mean, Robert Evans, the producer, would have had a lot to say, I'm sure. Oh, and Joey Esterhaus is the producer as well. So and he sounded like he was going through the behind the scenes stuff with Joey Esterhaus on this movie is crazy. Like he had, like, there was someone working on the movie, like another producer or some shit, and they ended up Joey Esterhaus ended up, like, Sharon Stone ended up dating that guy, and then that guy's partner, Joey Esterhaus, then cut his grass, went out with that woman. It was a mess. You know what I mean? Like, it was real Fleetwood Mac stuff. So that was all going on behind the scenes. So Baldwin and Stone hating each other, I think, was probably the least of it.
Yeah. And they had to work so hard to get Stone in this movie to begin with.
I can imagine. Yeah, she was getting pretty big.
Yeah, but I don't think she wanted to do something that was so similar to Basic Instinct, I think. But by saying that, I think the character in this film is a lot different. It's sort of they're trying to do like another Basic Instinct here, with the film, but I don't think her character is fun.
Yeah, she's not diabolical, and she's not a killer, and
yeah,
she's just...
and that's one of the ways they sold it to her, was that this character has got more dimensions that you can play with. They got her on board. I think they got her on board by telling her that Gina Davis, they were going to get Gina Davis had signed on for it, and she was originally going to be doing Basic Instinct, or she was the original person they wanted for Basic Instinct, and so then she signed on for it because there was some competitiveness going there. But it was a bit of a lie. Like, she was never approached to do Sliver. So,
jeez, bring that Hollywood back, eh?
Yeah, all these games. They also told her before before the Gina Davis thing, and she didn't bite for this, that they were going to cast Demi Moore and that Bruce Willis was going to accepted to do the role for free. So he was going to be in it too.
All of these people did their own sexy thrillers, by the way. Demi Moore did Disclosure with Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis did Color of Night.
Yep.
I don't think Gina's got one, but if it's out there, I'll find it.
Yeah. So these kind of games Hollywood producers play to try and get their star, you know.
Well, I was just watching a bit of that documentary, The Kid Stays in the Picture, about Robert Evans, the producer of this film, and he talks about doing that. He's old hat at that. He talked about doing that with Mia Farrow on Rosemary's Baby. AJ, did you see that bit, AJ?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's talking mad shit about her. He's like, you know, because apparently Frank Sinatra said to her, you know, you've got to stay. I want you to be in my picture. And she was halfway through Rosemary's Baby. You got to leave Rosemary's Baby. She's like, I don't know what to do. And Robert Evans is like, you know, I sat her down. I showed her the movie, an hour of the movie. I said, you're going to be a star, you know. And she was like, Sinatra, who? He served the divorce papers on the set. You know, he's old school. He comes from this tradition, and that maybe that's, you know, feeding into this, what I was saying before about the causes and conditions that created this movie. He comes from an era where, this is another quote I got from a producer who was an influence on him, said to Robert Evans back in the day, and probably in the 50s or some shit, said, I think it was Charlie Bluthorn was his name. He said, go by the seat of your pants, make pictures people want to see. I want to see tears, laughs. I want pretty girls in the pictures, beautiful girls. Pictures people want to see in Kansas City. You know, that's all, Evans. What else do we got to go over? So that's really this movie. You know, a movie that people in Kansas City want to see. Beautiful girls. It
was a great movie.
Yeah,
I had a good time.
I had a great time, and Hollywood's lost its way.
Do you think these films age well? Because this made money, but it was slammed critically. Like, all the critics hated it, but I think if critics were to look at it now, or us looking at it now, I mean,
we're a bit more forgiving now, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
But we can also appreciate it because this kind of film doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
Or the films don't try to explore these sorts of realms or topics anymore, you know.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that does, I think, bump it up. But you know, the 90s is sort of getting its own edge now that it didn't have 20 years ago.
I feel like the 90s was dangerous for filmmakers, you know?
Well, at the time, I thought it was shitty. And now I just didn't know it was the fucking, like, you know, Wonderland. I just didn't know we had Trainspotting and Pulp Fiction and Basic Instinct and, you know, Fucking Die Hard with a Vengeance and just whatever. Like,
and Serial Mom.
Scream, Serial Mom. Jesus Christ. These are real fucking movies, though. They are. Yeah. They're great stuff. So, it was a different time. But yeah, just a couple of things. So this film, I thought this film was based on a book by R11. So R11 is a writer who sort of specialized in female paranoid thrillers. So he did, he's the gaslighting king. He wrote Stepford Wives, Rosemary's Baby, and Sliver. So when you watch all three of those together, you actually see his whole deal. You know what I mean? It's basically women getting totally fucked over by the men in their lives. You know, like women coping with the changing nature of what it means to be a woman. So in Stepford Wives, it's about marriage and moving to the suburbs and the role of the housewife, and particularly in the 70s and 60s and 70s at the changing time. Rosemary's Baby is about about pregnancy and the way that's sort of weaponized against, you know, women, and she had a career in the movie, I think, and they had to choose between that. And then finally, I think Sliver is about divorce, you know, and about a different kind of experience. So they're all conspired against by the men in their life, but also the environment. They're controlled and manipulated and surveilled, and I think that's what makes him a very interesting writer here. But at the end of the day, this isn't like an urban professional horror movie. You know, it's like, what if you move into a great uptown condo? Sure, you're rich, you got great healthcare, you can afford to eat, you know, real food, unlike everyone else in America. But the doorman doesn't even open the door for you.
Oh, look, the slight against the doorman.
Not giving him a tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot.
Hell.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't open the door for me, did he? I was like, Jesus Christ.
I know.
No, but that I think that's true, because we don't realize this, because in Australia we don't have a tipping culture. In America, like when I travel to the US, like people I'd have dinner with and stuff, friends of friends and stuff like that, they'd say stuff like, "Oh, not going to give him a very good tip because blah blah blah, he didn't do this or he didn't do that," or so the tipping culture is really big there, and people, they really, if they don't feel like they've been given good service, they don't tip well.
It sucks, man.
It does suck. I've met some Americans that live in Australia that sort of miss the tipping because they reckon you get better service because of the tipping. But man, when you're working at a bar and the only money you're really getting is from tips, it's like, it's nightmarish.
But when we talk about the service you get, like, I mean, we're getting off topic here. I'm sure that people have talked about this ad nauseum, but do you know that sometimes, is it service when someone is like just doing it for the tip? Like, I don't know. It's not right.
Do you want to be interrupted 1,000 times?
1,000
that's
times.
The other thing. That's the other thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, leave me alone.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got some stuff to bring up.
Hit us with the Me Too.
All right. Okay. So, cute meat or cute stalk? So, Jack dresses like a mugger, then pops out of nowhere in the park to menace or maybe flirt with Carly. I'm not quite sure. He's clearly been researching her private life and uses it to neg her quite successfully. Brings up her boring ex-partner, and she says, "Fuck you." And he says, "Would you like to? I can try to make myself available." So I think he's not getting the signals there, but so that's a big one. Next, the Invisible Woman. Martin Landau, that's Carly's boss. We mentioned him earlier. He was trying to set up Jack and Carly at a restaurant. Carly's boss, he gets in on the action. He says, "Oh, you've lost her now, Jack. She likes being in control." Like she's not even there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like just like she's just a prop. Like imagine that. So anyway, the next headline, "Don't be a slut, you slut." This is the slutty best friend syndrome. So Vida Warren, our English woman, she says, "Y'all moved in?" to Carly. She says, "No, I hate it." And she says, "Oh, wait a minute, that's right. No, first she talks about a trip to Italy." She says, "Ass pinching Italians, my bum is still blue." And then after that, that's when she says, "Y'all moved in? Yeah, you all moved in?" "No, I hate it." Carly says, "I know, it's worse than anal intercourse." Carly laughs. This is internalized misogyny. All this talk of bums and bumming. You know what I mean? Like here we are. Here we are. Picturing this attractive woman engaging in sweaty acrobatic sodomy. Okay, this is all part of the plan. All right, it's all part of the plan. I can see what they're doing, and I don't like it much. So I do like. This is just a little side note. This was I think I'm going to post this on Instagram. This scene. This was at that nightmarish mixer they have at her apartment. One of the interns or whatever assistants at the publishing house looks through the telescope and she says, "They're doing it. Oh, they are. I can't believe it." She's so excited, like that they're doing it.
But Sharon Stone gets so excited.
Oh, doesn't want to share.
Oh man.
No, her laughing. She's going, "Oh, oh."
Oh yeah, that was a bit of fake acting.
I thought
horny sort of laughing.
I thought that was hot.
It was hot. So. And then Jack says, "Would you look at her? She's a voyeur. She can't get enough."
And then he goes, "She's a peeper, a peeper, a peeper."
That has to be at the end of the
app. That's so true. You're a peeper. Yes, that's true. That is what happened. So Jack's shaming of Carly for being sex positive. There's nothing wrong with being a nymphomaniac or a kink machine, okay, nowadays. It's empowering and great. And, for
don't
women,
have sex.
No, for women to put everything they've got on TikTok or OnlyFans, that's what's hot now, okay? Make your money, girl, okay? That's empowering. Next up, witness the fitness. Or shall we say, witness the fitness related sex crime. Zeke lies to Carly to get her to go to the gym, then thirst traps her with his strong buns and then gropes her buns, and she loves it. So he's a bit of a taster. He says, "Anybody ever tell you you've got a very nice butt. And then she says, nobody's told me that in a long time. He says, well, that's because the wrong people have been looking at it. And she says, that's true. Okay. This is, again, internalized misogyny. So what? What? All women want a rich man who works out and owns condos to take control and be socially and sexually aggressive? No. They want soy boys who can be pegged into submission. Okay? That's what they want. All right? So no editorial needed. What's that? A volcano. I'd like to fly into it sometime. So there you go. I think that speaks for itself. I don't need to add to that. Next up. Here we go. Next headline. Okay, groomer. Zeke interrogates Carly over dinner about her underwear. Show me the bra and panties, and she does, removing the panties and bunching them up and handing them over. She's in thrall of the patriarchy. Getting men hot is disgusting. Unless it's for money on OnlyFans, we've talked about this. Then it's beautiful, empowering. We've already said, we've covered this, okay? You know the rules. Next up, bare-assed attack. Carly pops over for a visit and Baldwin comes from behind, nude, mind you, rubbing his naked body over her to world music.
That was rape.
Well, you know, it was rape. So, yeah. These are the charges. You have it. You have it all in front of you, good people. What are we giving this out of 10 on our Me Too scale?
It's got to be 11, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this the highest we've had?
I think maybe it's
no. Friday the 13th Part 2 also scored 11. I think.
Okay.
I think it's the aggressive guys, like way before the sex starts. The aggressive guys are all just like, I don't know. They're just treating her like she's I don't know what it is, like a squeeze me toy or something. You know, like they're aggressive and on her straight away, and and then the sex happens, and then the rest of it. So I feel like it's high. It is high. So probably 10 or so, or 11 maybe.
Do you guys think that Baldwin is a player or a little bitch?
Well,
like with all the I love yous and that, and he's saying all the same shit to each other.
When he says, he goes, you're so beautiful, Vita. You smell so good. And then cuts, he's nailing the next chick and he says, I love you. You smell like roses.
It's a kink and he's just a nerd, or
well, I don't know. I think again the casting doesn't work for me.
No,
he's not someone. It needed to be someone that gets you right in the breadbasket. Someone who's like a bit more, masculine and assertive, and it's got that complexity. And you're like, oh no, I'm all drawn in the way I am in Blue Velvet. You know?
Yeah.
So everyone in Blue Velvet is so multifaceted, whereas here, I think he's just miscast, and he comes across as a bit of a fruit in the old parlance.
Bit of la femme.
A la femme. Ricky, do you agree? Or?
I do. Yeah. I think he's the character's a player, but Baldwin can't pull it off.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So real life for some guys.
Yeah. What does it matter? He's rich, right?
Oh, and he's still nailing them. So
he's nailing them, but I guess he is ultimately a loser because he's sort of like, no. But then again, this is a common story, though. There's so many people. Well, I think in Hollywood that have all this power. They're rich, and look at Arnie. Like he's got everything, and then he just nailed a random housekeeper.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure she's good, here and there, but you're Arnie. You know what I mean? Like, why do these people do it all the time? They're like, or they'll do, well, actually, I know, we're not going to end on this, but I'm just saying that Cosby had it all.
Oh.
And look, he got his pills on.
I think he had a very specific kind of kink.
Anyway, quick, move on from
final thoughts. Jeepers Creepers, what a bunch of peepers. Sharon Stone is burnt into my eyes.
Amazing. I want a bumper sticker of that.
That's good.
That's really good.
Yeah, well, that was Sliver. I think we had a great time. Next week, we're going to keep it rolling. We're building up, really, in our Frankfest, a.k.a. Joe Esterhausen Festival. Next week, Flashdance, and then I think we smash Showgirls after that. That's the finale.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's going to be great. But I think it'll be good to see the beginnings, Flashdance,
Yep.
Where it all began. I think I've only maybe seen it once.
I don't think I've seen it.
Great. Well, yeah, again, it's one of these movies that its reputation sort of has long since overshadowed its the actual movie. So, yeah. Anyway, that's it. Well, we said what we said, AJ.
Yeah, this week's a bit tough, but yeah, I did. I'll back myself.
You back yourself.
Right. I don't think I have anything to apologize for.
Oh.
I did say fruit.
You did.
And I apologize.
Yeah, you kind of defended Cosby.
No, I did not defend Bill Cosby. But anyway, if you are a fruit, I'm sorry.
Long live the new flesh.
Long live the new flesh. Life is crazy. Life is mad.
A peeper.
You've been fucking your brains out, haven't you?
My mum says it like that.
What about the panties?
What the hell?